everybody? Welcome back to Challenge Call with Max and Avery. I'm your host, Max.
And I am Avery. How are you guys?
Alrighty. Avery, how are you doing on this fine day?
I am good, man. How are you?
Not doing too bad. Officially enjoying my summer. I've not gone into the office in like about a week outside of working out. I go there to work out and then I pretty much come back because there's nothing to do. It's summer.
That's fair. You get to spend all this time with, your girlfriend that moved out and everything, right? And enjoy time.
I mean, she's still going to work. So,
I'm
getting a lot of me time at home is what I'm getting right now.
Okay, there you go.
Great.
Little relaxing. Get to be by yourself. Get to record some podcasts.
Yeah.
Get some videos.
Get to do more than recording podcast. As you know, I've been all over the podcast lately. So you guys got a lot to look forward to this summer because we're recording. I'm posting. I'm making sure it's all good. I'm gonna try to get on the socials a little bit, posting some TikToks and Instagrams. But I mean, we'll see. We're just rolling with it right now.
All right, man. What are we going to talk about first today?
Today, we're going to do a little bit of basketball episode. It is mostly going to be focused on the WNBA. As you all know, Caitlin Clark is now on the Indiana Fever. But we're also going to talk about the NBA a little bit just because today is the first game of the NBA championship between the Mavericks and the Celtics. Avery, what are your thoughts on this NBA championship matchup?
Dude, I like it. I mean, it's kind of unique. It's not the same players that you usually see, right? I mean, Jason Tatum for Boston. Then you also got Luka Doncic that's been balling out. The Mavs are just like a fun story. The Mavs have only won one championship in their whole span, and that was back in 2011. It's just kind of weird to see, like, you remember Dirk, right? Dirk Nowitzki that used to play. Okay,
don't watch the NBA.
All right. Well, Dirk used to play for the Mavs, European guy that, was just a shooter, but an all-around player. Luka, European guy that's a shooter, but all-around player. It's kind of fun to see, like, the similarities to the 2011 Mavs team and the 2024 Mavs team.
Or the 2023 Denver Nuggets with Nikola Jokic, who is my favorite player.
That's fair. But no, I think I don't know, man. A lot of people are saying that it's going to be Boston in 6, but it's hard to say that when, like, you look at who the Dallas Mavericks have had to beat to get to this championship. They've had to go through hell and back. And I know you were mentioning it the other day that it's like, okay, well, they had to go through hell and back. They're going to be exhausted, right? Boston's kind of swept through. I mean, what's your perspective on it?
That is a really big factor when you get into these kind of 7-game series is when you have teams that are putting in a good fight. They're taking it to a game 7. They're moving on through that game 7 and they're making it all the way. It's awesome to see, but you get beat up. Whereas when you have a team like the Celtics who are kind of like swept in 4, and they're just kind of coasting their way up there. Like they're playing a lot less games. They're a lot looser, better. And basketball is not going to beat you up like football will. Like football, by the time you get to the Super Bowl, both of those teams have probably played the same number of games, unless one of them had a first-round bye and the other didn't. They probably played the exact same games. They're the exact same amount of beat up and all that jazz. Basketball is a lot different on that because you sweep a team in 4 while everyone else is out there playing. You're practicing, recovering, like prepping. Now, you don't get to specifically practice for who you're going to play against because the other games are still going on, but you're still getting general practice in and general recovery time, and you're not having the stresses of the game quite as much. So I think that does play a factor. The other thing to look into here is the Celtics, I feel like, have a better, what you're saying, yes, they have Jason Tatum, but they have a better overall kind of team, whereas the Mavs, who do they have outside of Luka Doncic that's like the guy that is popping off right now, or just like even just the head assist kind of guy?
Oh, Kyrie Irving.
Irving. Okay.
Yeah, it's been Kyrie and Luka show all playoffs. And going back, I understand what you're talking about. Like the Mavs, they played 19 games compared to Boston's 14. That's a whole nother series. Pretty much. Like they played 19 games to get where they're at. But no, yeah, I do agree that I think Boston definitely has a better supporting cast with like Drew Holiday. I mean, you got all these other players that are going to come out and kill it. But it's just something about that underdog mentality, especially being a 5 seed and making it to the finals. That's so cool to see that you don't see it as often in the NBA.
Yeah, and just even you look at just the last games played, like even from a timing standpoint, if you don't want to look at the number of games, the last time they played a game, the Mavs played on May 30th. The last time the Celtics played was May 27th. That's 3 days of a difference. They've
Yeah.
had 3 extra days of recovery, kind of rest, and now they're only kicking off today on June 6th for the championship game. So it's arguably like, does the extra 3 days of rest matter when beyond that point you still have, a full week off to kind of recover, get your legs on? Like, it's a matter of, are both teams back to 100%?
Right.
Like if 5 days is all it takes to get back to 100%, those extra 3 days don't matter.
Yeah.
But does it only take 5 days at the very end of an NBA season when the Mavs have played 82 games this year and the Celtics have played 70, 80? They've also played 82.
Well,
So
yeah. That's regular season, but
still, yes. But even then, when you're this late, it takes longer to recover. Like when you beat up, recover, if you're not reaching full recovery every time that you're getting beat up, that recovery window like needs to stretch out to get back to 100. So same thing, if the Mavs are going to a game 7 all the time, they get a lot less recovery time throughout the playoff process. Whereas if the Celtics continue to sweep, they get more time in between each series to like kind of tick back up. So I don't know. I think that'll play a factor into it, but I don't know. What do you think? I know you like the Mavs in this. Is that a pure liking, or what do you think will actually be the results of this?
I think it's a pure liking, right? I mean, I would love to see him. I would love to see the Mavs in 7, like just all the way down to a game 7. They win it. That would be awesome. I think a lot of people are right. I think it might be Boston in 6. I think the Mavs are going to run out of juice. There's another awesome, like, little bit of a storyline is, Kyrie's playing his old team. Kyrie was with Boston for about 3 years. So, like, it's going to be cool to kind of see Kyrie play for Boston and or against Boston. But I don't know. What do you got? I mean, I know you haven't really watched, but just on a number standpoint, give me something.
I mean, based on the numbers, it's pretty hard not to say Boston. Like it just,
yeah,
and it's that kind of thing too. Or when you look at record, Mavs are 50-32, the Celtics are 64-18. But you get in that thing where like it's the NBA. They don't necessarily care very early on in the season about too much winning because like true. You still get to the playoffs, you still make it. I mean, just Mavs only won 50 games this season, and they are standing in the exact same place as the Celtics with winning 64. Like that, they play so many games, it's almost like, does it matter that much? But I don't know. It will be really interesting to see. I hope it does go to a game 7 just for the sake of being able to enjoy more basketball. Not that I've watched a ton this season or even postseason. I've watched like maybe 3 games. I think I've watched a couple games when the Nuggets were still in the playoffs when they went out, and then like a random game in the middle of the season of like the Nuggets as well. And that's about all I've seen. So
that's fair.
That is what it is. But
well, I think in at 7:30 tonight, and you're going to watch the first game.
I'll be trying to watch. I'll try to make it a point to watch the first game in the series at least. If anything, I'm going to make a big point to watch game 4. Because depending on where we stand at game 4, if there's a chance that that's the last game, have to watch it, right?
Right.
Like the games you absolutely have to watch are 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yep. And to kick it off game 1. But I'm excited. I did watch the Mavs Timberwolves like every single game that series, and I was supporting the Timberwolves, but like after like halfway through the series, I was like, actually no, I like the Mavs are fun, man. They're spunky. You don't see that in the NBA anymore.
You mean halfway through the series when you realized the Timberwolves were down 3-0 and you were like, I'm gonna switch my alliance now?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Anyways, that's all I really got for the NBA.
That's all I have for NBA as well. So let's move over to the women's side of things with the WNBA.
Before we do WNBA, let's talk a little women's college basketball, because there was a major move that happened with the Iowa Hawkeyes, and Lisa Bluter retired.
Yes, I think we already talked about that.
I don't
Did
think we
we?
talked about it on the pod, but Lisa Bluter retired, and Jen Jensen is now taking over as the head coach. It's kind of hard to see that coming. I mean, Lisa Bluter's been there since 2003,
She's been there a
2000.
long time, and she's built that program.
Yeah, and it's not even just like the Caitlin Clark effect, right? That we'll get into here. It was before Caitlin Clark. Like, she might not have been as successful. Caitlin might have brought her to the very like front of college basketball, but she has built that Iowa Hawkeye program from the ground up. And it's really cool to see. And, she might not have been the best person or the best coach at times, but you got to still give her her due.
Yes, definitely. This is a good time for her to go. I mean, you're coming off of back to back, making it to the national championships and all of that. You reach a point where it's kind of like, okay, do you stick around and risk like taking too big of steps backwards, or do you get out while the going is hot?
Right.
I think she's making a good move. I think she's getting out while the going is hot. She's been there a long time. She's rebuilt the program. She's losing her best player, arguably her best few players, because Gabby Marshall graduated. She's going to go be a dentist. Kate Martin is in the WNBA now. Caitlin Clark is obviously in the WNBA first pit. Like, you built up and supported this team, and now it's gone. And it's to the point of, do you want to restart and try to do it all over again? Or do you want to hand it off to your assistant, say, here's the reins, the keys to the empire, whatever, like, let's see what you got.
So, and the other aspect with this as well is like Jan Jensen, she was getting contract offers to become a head coach. And I think Lisa Bluter was like at that edge of like, okay, like, should I retire or not? And I'm wondering if it's like, okay, Iowa wants to keep Jan Jensen around, that they kind of forced Lisa Bluter out. Who knows? Maybe
it was just Bluter thinking like, hey, I don't know. I have a much harder time believing that Iowa forced Bluter out than Bluter decided like, yeah, I'm going to leave while I have back-to-back championship appearances. Like, Jan Jensen's already getting offers. She's about to leave me on top of Clark. Like I just said, those three players left her, and Jan Jensen is like getting real close to leaving her if she's getting head coach offers. I think she's just like, hey, stay at Iowa, support Stolke, who's still here, support O'Grady, who's still, like, be the coach of the girls you already know and love still, and just, like, here you go.
Well, I know a WNBA team that probably could use Lisa Bluter on their team to help unlock their star player, so we might as well get into that.
Yes. We'll give you guys a little WNBA update here. Caitlin Clark, number one WNBA draft, has already been doing some big things. It doesn't necessarily appear like it just off of first glance. Like, when you first look at things, you're like, all right, she went to the Indiana Fever. How is she doing? The Indiana Fever is 2-9. Oh, yikes. Like, she's not doing that great. But, and even just looking at her individually, when you look at the stats of a lot of games, she's not often the leading scorer on the Fever. She's been it a few times, but it's not like it's every game she's the leading scorer. It's not like she's always playing the most minutes, stuff like that. But, like, she is still doing some big things with the Indiana Fever. And a part of the reason that she's not getting, like, the most points and being the leading scorer every time and blah, blah, whatever, is the way that other teams are treating her. Like, she's getting face guarded with and without the ball when the ball is near here or on the other half of the court. And, like, just look at some of the things that are happening to her while she is put. Like, I was watching a TikTok. I know I sent it to you. Someone was calling her the next Michael Jordan because she's going through what he called the Jordan effect of she is so good that other teams are essentially just beating the shit out of her, hoping to, like, minimize her career, essentially.
Yeah.
Or ability to play.
I agree. I mean, I agree everything you just said. I mean, at the same time, she's still leading the Indiana Fever in points per game.
Yes, on average.
15, on average, 15.6, which ranks her in the top 20 as a rookie, the only rookie on this list, in the top 20 for the season, which is impressive. Field goal percentage is down a lot compared to what she did at Iowa. 3-point percentage is down. Of course, you're a rookie. It's not. It's going to be different.
But that being said, like 3-point percentage is down, but it is still what is it, 29%? If I'm basing it off of memory, I have to look. But it's still like,
29.7.
yeah, like it's still a decent free throw percentage.
Yeah, it's not terrible. I mean, so she's still hitting her logo threes that everybody knows she can hit
Yeah.
every now and then. The thing is, and you talked about getting physically beat throughout these games. I don't know if it's just these veteran players that are it's causing jealousy in the WNBA or what is going on, but it's not just Caitlin Clark as well. I mean, Cameron Brink is experiencing some of this. Sabrina, I forgot her last name. She's a stud for the New York Liberty. She was talking about when she came into the league that there was a lot of issues with the jealousy of the league. I think it's just hard seeing another player come in that has superstar potential that is bringing eyes to the league for these women. And I think like at the end of the day, she's gonna go through a year. She's gonna go through. This is welcome to the WNBA year. Whatever these veterans want to do, reality is gonna set in, like Diana Taurasi mentioned on ESPN. And then next year, she's going to come out and she's going to ball out because she's going to be used to the face guarding. She's going to be used to everything that's happened throughout the year, the physicality, and she's just going to explode next year.
That is true, which I was even seeing, though, like Diana Taurasi said, reality is going to set in. Yes. When you compare her average stats to Caitlin Clark average stats, I don't know if it was through the first 8 games. I don't know if it was career stats versus Caitlin Clark's only 8 games. It's obviously hard to differentiate that. But Caitlin Clark is doing a lot better than Diana Taurasi. And this points per game, rebounds per game, all of that, like she has better stats. So if reality is setting in, like that just sounds like a jealous statement right there to like off the bat to begin with. Like,
yeah, I agree. Let's see, Caitlin Clark points. So I got Diana Taurasi's points per game up.
Is it career or is it the first 8 games
No,
or so?
it's for this season. Okay, so Diana, they're not off. They're not that far off, right? 16.7 for Diana Taurasi, Caitlin Clark 15.6. So she's averaging more points per game. Rebounds, Diana Taurasi 4.4, Caitlin Clark 5.1. Assist, Diana Taurasi 1.0, Caitlin Clark 6.4. Steals, Diana Taurasi 0.6. Steals 1.3, Caitlin Clark. Turnovers per game, Diana Taurasi 1, Caitlin Clark 4. Okay, so she needs to cut down on the turnovers, right?
Yeah, she is leading the WNBA in turnovers right now.
It's
like
rough.
that is the biggest downfall of hers currently. Is yes, the turnovers are a struggle, but you know that she's getting better about that. Like when you actually look at her game log, a part of that average that's killing her is her very first game or two.
Yeah.
Her very first game or two is like, what was it, 10 turnovers, that very first one? Not great.
Right. But and then at the end of the day though, like Caitlin Clark, she still won Rookie of the Month for the month of May. With the face guarding, with all of this occurring, she's still making a name. And you go into the attendance aspect. Their attendance has been unreal. Every single Indiana Fever game has been sold out. You cannot say that about any other WNBA team.
And that's the biggest thing that like everyone's talking about Caitlin Clark in the league, blah, 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 tearing it up, doing good. Like they're talking about her success. And like everyone's doing a lot of stats comparison of like, okay, like she's not some gigantic crazy leader in points per game, not some crazy leader in this. She has a lot of turnovers. She is number 4 in assists, which is kind of what she's known for. But that's all good and done and whatever. But the reason that she's such a success and such a big name has nothing to do with her stats on the court. Look at the numbers of viewership. Like you said, every game sold out for the Indiana Fever. Like that is all Caitlin Clark. Even when they're not playing at home, even when they're going like away and they're playing in Vegas or they're playing in New York or things like that, the attendance of those games is up like 500%. Like just the effect of her just being there is insane. This is the biggest thing, and this is what makes it so like unjust that these other women are kind of like hating on it or complaining about or like whatever, jealous of her. This is the first year that the WNBA teams have been able to travel by plane or by charter plane
Yeah.
as opposed to like commercial flights and buses and crap like that. And the only reason that they are able to do that is because Caitlin Clark entering the league has brought in enough revenue to do so.
Yep. And at the end of the day, I think the WNBA is starting to fail Caitlin Clark.
Yes.
And the reason I say this is the hardest reality is when you can't protect your asset and the thing that's making you money, it's gone. It's going to be gone. Like that resource is going to be gone. She's going to get hurt. The flagrant foul that was not called against Kennedy Carter, right? In the Chicago Sky, the Angel Reese throwdown. That might have been a flop. Let's be honest. That one might have been a flop. Caitlin Clark's pretty good at flopping. We all know that. But Kennedy Carter and that flagrant where she flew across the court, that's unnecessary.
Well, and nothing was going on. Like
Right.
there was an inbound pass going to be coming at some point, but it's not like she did it during the pass. It's not like she was trying to get in front of her to get the ball. She straight up just checked her.
Yeah. Did you see what Kennedy Carter said on X? She said, if you take away her 3-point shooting, what does she have? And then like a whole bunch of people were like commenting like money and like assist, everything that you would want. And so I wanted to pull up the side-by-side comparison of the two players, right? Mm-hmm. Kennedy Carter is a 3-year vet in the WNBA, should have her footing, right? Points per game, 12.5. Caitlin Clark, 15.6. Rebounds, 2.8. Caitlin Clark, 5.1. Assists, 2.5. Caitlin Clark, 6.4. Steals, 1.0. Caitlin Clark, 1.3. Looks like she's a better player than you. So I hate to say that, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's accurate.
Don't even leave out average minutes per game. Caitlin Clark, 33.
Yeah.
Kennedy Carter, 19.
Fair. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like, just, dial it back. And also to Angel Reese, you are a big part of why the WNBA. Because, I mean, she did come out. I don't know if you heard that she's like, without Caitlin Clark or without me, there wouldn't be a Caitlin Clark. And I agree. I mean, in a way, in a sense.
I vastly disagree in that.
I agree in a sense. I do think Angel Reese is doing a good job in the WNBA. She's making plays. She's doing what she needs to do. She's a rookie.
Okay, the argument's not that no one's ever gone into the WNBA and like done a good job. Like, yeah, Kelsey Plum went into the WNBA, did a good job. Even I can't think of her name anymore, but you've already mentioned her. Cameron Brink went into the WNBA and has done a good job. Like, yes, that has nothing to do with it. Like, she's saying there would be no Caitlin Clark without me. Like, did anyone extra tune in to the Fever Sky game compared to every other Fever game? No. You said it yourself, every single Fever game has sold out, not the Fever versus Chicago Sky game. Like, it probably did, but, that wasn't the only game that sold out. Every game is sold out. Therefore, like, no, that has nothing to do with it. They're not watching to watch this battle between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. They're watching because they fucking love Caitlin Clark.
That's fair. I mean, and there's been 6 records that have been broken this year in the WNBA, and 5 out of the 6 are Caitlin Clark games. There was one, and it was an Angel Reese game. So it was her debut because she was popular in college basketball.
For sure. She has a national championship.
She does have a national championship. So I do agree with what she says in a sense, but not to the same level of Caitlin Clark. Not to the I'm getting a Nike deal before I even get to the league. Not before the Ice Cube's going to give me $10 million to play for the Big Three. Not like her name getting mentioned every single day in sports media. That's Caitlin Clark.
Yes.
Angel Reese maybe once a week.
Angel Reese is contributing. Here's the difference between what she said and like the argument you're making for her or whatever. Angel Reese said there is no Caitlin Clark without me.
Right.
Wrong, false,
Wrong.
incorrect. Now, does Angel Reese have an effect on viewership? Sure. I'm sure she does. Like, yes, she probably pulled in a fan base that watches. She is a part of that class with Caitlin and Brink and Angel Reese that is very successful. Like, that is the class that is bringing the WNBA into focus. Now, who is leading that charge by an absolutely insane amount? Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Angel Reese isn't bringing anybody into the WNBA, but saying that there is no Caitlin Clark without you is fucking narcissistic and flat out wrong.
Which, and I guess, like, I don't agree with what she said, but I understand, like, the value she brings to the WNBA.
Yes, which was never in question.
Right.
Like,
okay, so we talked about the Caitlin Clark aspect. We talked about Angel Reese. We talked about Cameron Brink. Let's get into some of the teams, right? We've already mentioned Indiana Fever. They're 2-9. They're not doing well. They do play the Mystics tonight, which this will be out probably tomorrow or so at some point. But they are 0-9. So we
should very, very hopefully be another win for Caitlin Clark. This hopefully her third.
Yeah, and the only thing is, it's saying that she is day-to-day right now. So, well, she did leave with an injury the last game they played, which was on Monday.
The Chicago Sky. Right?
Yeah, the Chicago.
Or no, that wasn't the last game they played. They did play another game in between there. But she left the Sky game with an injury too, remember?
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if they can pull it off. They need to, because that team needs some wins.
So here is the one caveat to that statement, that they need to. Do they? If Caitlin Clark gets hurt and doesn't play and they continue to lose, what do they gain? Number 1 overall pick in the draft. Who's going to go number 1 overall in the upcoming class for women basketball?
1 to 2 people.
Yeah, probably going to be, what is it? I forget her name.
Watkins?
Yep, Juju Watkins, or it's going to be Paige Beckers. And so what is, frankly, a better decision for you? To play a so-so Caitlin Clark, who is kind of hobbling on an injury that's limiting her, but maybe not enough to the effect where you're still going to win a good amount of games, or to just pull Caitlin Clark, she's out for the season, you're going to lose a bunch of games, you're going to get the first pick, and now we're watching Juju Watt or Paige Beckers with Caitlin Clark absolutely fucking demolished next year.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you're right. I agree. The one standpoint, right, is how many viewerships leave the Indiana Fever if they count Caitlin Clark out for the rest of the year? How many games are not sold out, and the attendance is going to go to an absolute shit show? And the WNBA in general.
Here's a part of the question of that is how many tickets are already sold for the Fever games, and are they refundable?
That's fair.
Because if most of the games are already 90% sold out and Caitlin Clark goes out for the season and the tickets aren't refundable, then they made their money.
True. I mean, at the end of the day, you're right. I was looking at something. I wanted to mention another Iowa player too. Kate Martin. Dude. Yep. Kate Martin, she's been killing it for the Las Vegas Aces.
She guarded Caitlin Clark in Clark's last game. I believe it was her last game, right? That was the game they played after the Sky.
And I mean, she's not, she's a role player. At the end of the day, they don't need a star on the Las Vegas Aces. Speaking of Las Vegas Aces, Ajaya Wilson made some WNBA history the other night. And that's why I wanted to mention Las Vegas Aces. She scored the first player to score 35 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists in one game ever for the WNBA. And so Ajaya Wilson and the Las Vegas Aces with Kate Martin, man, they look like the team to beat. If you just read out, you actually know a lot of these names. Like Ajaya Wilson, Kelsey Plum, Kate Martin,
I
like
think
you
it's Asia.
Asia, is it?
If I had to guess by
Okay.
looking at it, I would think Asia.
Asia, she's a stud, man. She's like killing the game right now. 27.9 points per game, 12.4, 2 assists, 2 steals. I watched her play when they played the Fever, and I was just like mesmerized by like, because I'm not gonna lie, some of these games they're like, how do you miss like a wide open layup?
There are a lot of kind of blunders or mistakes in these games where you're just kind of like, oh no, like you hate to see that kind of thing. Like you're just
Right.
like, do not throw that ball 10 feet over someone's head. Like, what are you doing?
But she doesn't do this.
No,
She's polished. She's a professional. She's good, man. Like she's very good. Kelsey Plum is very good as well on the Las Vegas Aces. If I had to pick a second favorite team, just like from like a standpoint of liking to watch it, it would definitely be the Aces for sure.
I think the WNBA is heading in a direction where it is only going to start getting better.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's just because we're paying attention now because of Clark or like what exactly it is, but when you look at some of the players like Asia Wilson or Kelsey Plum, or even just this freshman class that came in, Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, Cameron Brink. I always forget about her name. You look at those, and then you look at this next upcoming class. We've already said Juju Watts. Watkins. We've already said Paige
H
Beckers,
Beckers,
and there will be a couple others I'm sure in there too that we're just not thinking of at the top
maybe
right now.
Hannah Stolke. Like if she balls out,
Potentially, but like I think there are some really talented and skillful players coming up in women's like college basketball that are going to hit the WNBA, and the WNBA is only going to start getting better as time goes on. And a big effect of this years down the road, not necessarily right now, but in 5, 10 years, maybe a big effect of this is probably going to still be due to Caitlin Clark. Like, you know, why some of these young girls get so into basketball and want to play and get really good and what is because they look up to an idol like Caitlin Clark and they want to be like they realize like, hey, she do this, blah, blah, whatever. Like, who did you want to be growing up? One of your favorite football players or whatever, like you want to emulate that. There's a lot of young girls who are going to like be more interested in basketball just because of what she's doing. They will
that's
build up their talent, and who knows? Like, who knows some of the players we could be having in the WNBA coming down the road.
and that's the biggest thing that everybody wants. Because what did Michael Jordan do, right? How many players emulated Michael Jordan and the NFL? Like, I mean, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, like you had that sports superstar that reflects everything you want to be when you grow up. And that for a lot of women and little girls, that's Caitlin Clark right now. Like that's Caitlin Clark. I mean, even Paige Beckers is gonna show some. Angel Reese, Asia Wilson, like all these girls are finally having a role model. And you're right, it did start because of Caitlin Clark. No
And
one.
speaking of like Michael Jordan in basketball instead, I don't know what the NBA was like before him or anything, but I do know that NBA players are like on average, I believe, the highest paid athletes in professional sports. Like they make more money on average than football. They make more money than average in baseball. Like the key is on average. Because I think baseball is the biggest by like pure amount, like just size wise of like the biggest sports contract. Well, because we have a Shohei Ohtani, right? Like he broke that record. We know it. But I'm pretty sure the NBA on average has the like is what pays the best.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do either that or baseball. I think it might be baseball, but I'm
Baseball, there's so many guys though, and some of them are not like paid a ton. Basketball, like 6 guys on your bet, or how big is an NBA roster that you actually actively hold compared to like how many levels do you have to go through? Like you got the G leagues and you've got like going through college. I'm pretty sure it's NBA on average.
it might be. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that though, about like the NBA being sold, how Michael Jordan impacted the NBA, right?
Mhm.
Because back in 1976 in the NBA, they almost went bankrupt. They were fearing bankruptcy, finally willing to concede the player movement of the summer in 1976. That's when Magic Johnson, you probably know who Magic Johnson is, and Larry Bird entered the league. Magic Johnson and Larry Bird had such a fierce rivalry that everybody tuned into these games, and it created such an upward tick, and then Michael Jordan just topped it off. So maybe Caitlin Clark isn't the Michael Jordan, but maybe she's the Magic Johnson. Maybe she's the Larry Bird that starts the uproar, and in a few years, you have this superstar all-star that comes in and takes over. Who knows?
Exactly. And I did just confirm it. The NBA average annual player salary in sports industries 2019/2020 by league. NBA 8.32 million. That is the average player salary in 2019/2020. The IPL comes in number 2, which I don't even know what the IPL is. Do you?
No.
Yeah, I have no idea what that is. But they come in number 2 with 5.3 million. So you just dropped off 3 million.
The Indian Premier League. So.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Interesting. But so like that comes in at number 2, and you drop off $3,000 difference between NBA and the Indian Premier League. And then you have MLB in third with 4.03 million.
Okay.
So half as much as NBA. Like it is NBA by far.
I'm just gonna say, where's the NFL on that list? I'm just
the
curious.
NFL. Where are the NFL? I see the CFL down here at the bottom. Am I just missing it? And HL. Oh, NFL. They are number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 5 with 3.26 million.
Okay, that makes
Which
sense.
you have to remember, this is all the athletes. So
Right.
we're talking linemen
Yeah,
who don't have as
Practice
luxury. Yeah, well, I don't know if practice squad counts.
okay,
I'm pretty sure this is going to be active roster guys.
okay.
But yes, you got to think like NFL, you have different positions that kind of get paid different total contracts on average, or even just rookie contracts. Like you have much smaller kind of prove yourself rookie contracts compared to like the NBA. Like I said, 5 guys are on a court at a time. You probably don't hold a full active roster of much more than like maybe 15 or something. I don't know.
I think it is 15. Yeah,
15.
it is 15.
So then like all those guys, like you got money coming around. You can pay those guys well.
True. That's fair. And hopefully the women see some of this money in the future. Protect your asset. That's all I'm saying. Protect your asset.
We've already seen rules change in the NFL, like to keep quarterbacks safe.
Okay, and thank you. Who's the asset in the NFL right now? Who's the first guy you think of at a quarterback position? Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
What has changed in the NFL? Quarterback safety, making sure overtime rules are fine, making all of these little adjustments to benefit what? The quarterback position, because that's your asset in the NFL. That's your asset. So the WNBA, if your asset is your Caitlin Clark, that's a shooter, or just someone that is a shooter, protect your asset at all regards.
Yes. Which that is a lot harder to do, though. Like, I understand what you're saying, and I 100% agree that the WNBA needs to find a way to make it so that Caitlin Clark can be successful and, like, stay healthy. Because if she keeps getting this whole Jordan effect of getting beat up and she has a short career and it never really takes off, that is going to ruin the like everything we just said about how the WNBA is on the up and up, that goes to shit if they allow that to happen. Now, that being said, it is a little bit harder because Patrick Mahomes is quarterback, right? There's one quarterback on the field at a time for any given team. It's very easy to develop rules around that one position. In Caitlin Clark's instance, like she's a guard. And even then, like you can have 2 or 3 guards like on the court at a time. Like you can kind of switch up what you do position-wise. But like in general, there's like 5 players on a basketball court at a time. And it's not like they have any specific sort of restrictions or positional limits that they like. You can be a guard and still post up, or
True.
You can be a center and still shoot threes. Like, so it's a lot harder to develop specific rules to protect like any given person without just completely changing the entire game for everybody. That being said, there are definitely things they can do and like rule changes in general they can make that should make it like more successful for Caitlin to like have a good career, and for the league as a whole, because we're not saying this selfishly that Caitlin Clark does well. We're saying for the WNBA as a whole to find success, there's way they can change things to increase scoring and like increase, like decrease injuries, increase scoring and all that. Because one of the biggest thing in sports, a lot of the times the rule changes you'll see, like you even said, it's because of Patrick Mahomes. It is and it isn't a little bit. Because it is because of Patrick Mahomes. It's more greatly because he's a quarterback, and most importantly, because it increases scoring. The reason they're changing all these rules on tackling and everything is because, harder to tackle, more scoring. I took an American sports culture class back in college, and that was one of the things we talked about and we learned is think of some of the popular sports in America: football, basketball. What do those sports have in common? Lots of scoring, lots of points, lots of action. What are sports we don't mess with so much? Soccer. What happens in soccer? You score a goal, 2 goals sometimes. A shit ton of goals is like 5. There's not a lot of scoring. There's a lot of action. I like to watch it. It's like, I enjoy soccer personally. But as a culture, we love points and we love scoring. And a lot of the rules changes that you see that go into things are geared towards scoring more points.
And it makes sense. I mean, at the end of the day, because baseball, it's losing viewership like crazy because 3 to 4 end of a game, you watch it for 2.5 hours, 9 innings. Yeah, you don't want to see that. You want to see a 12-9 with the grand slam at the end of the game. Like that's what you came to watch, right? It makes sense. Or a 49-52. You look at like the highest scored NFL games; they're always the most viewed. 52-49, people still talk about the Rams Chiefs game back in 2019. Like, it's just those aspects and those demographics. Yeah, people want to see action. They want to see, oh, this team scored. I think that's where the WNBA needs to come in and be like, look, Caitlin Clark can shoot from the logo. What if they revolutionized basketball? Like, what if they put a 4-point line in?
For sure.
Like, they could totally do this. This isn't the NBA. It hasn't been around since 1950. Like, you can change these different demographics.
Well, that is both like a hard and an easy thing to do, though, too, is because so we see changes across football because like there's NFL and then you have the USFL. And what's the USFL doing? Like, have you seen a kickoff in the USFL?
Yep.
Not the same as the NFL. Granted, the NFL is going to that. They are changing. But, like, yeah, they set that precedent. They started it. The hard part you get into with it, though, with this is a little bit of, like, the rules in the NBA and the rules in the WNBA should be pretty simple. Like, it's basketball. It's just basketball. It's just different players. So I do understand there being a little bit of a struggle between like how much of the game of basketball can you change? Like a 4-point shot, that's changing basketball. That's a little bit different than saying like, okay, this type of foul or this type of touching is going to be like ruled illegal or this. Like there are little aspects that are more objective that you can change that makes scoring easier as opposed to just like changing the game of basketball. And that's what you need to do.
Right. Well, and I understand where you're coming from, but it's kind of, I'm not hypocritical, but a little bit hypocritical when you say like football, right? Football, for example, UFL, NFL. What do they do for onside kicks in the UFL? They go for a 2-point conversion. Isn't that completely changing football to its purest form? Isn't that similar to a 4-point shot?
In a
way,
is.
See,
the difference,
devil's advocate, I know what you're going to say. The difference is one's a professional sport, one's a semi-professional sport. And I understand that aspect, but it still changes it ever so slightly that people still watch the UFL. There's still viewers out there. It doesn't mean that the NFL can't adjust to it later on. It doesn't mean the NBA couldn't adjust. If the WNBA came out and put a 4-point shot in, they couldn't adjust to a 4-point shot in the NBA.
And that is the thing, though, too, is that, yes, the NFL can change the game of – like, the game of football has changed. Like, obviously it's changed. It's going to change. The difference and the kind of part that's a little more difficult about it is – with the NBA and the WNBA, those are both just like men's, women's, highest level of basketball.
Right.
When football changes in in the NFL standard, like that's just like, yeah, football changed a little bit. That happens. When the WNBA changes basketball at a level that it becomes like a different game than the NBA too much, they're not really playing the same game anymore. And that's where you get kind of a weird like they both have to kind of change things similarly at the same time, or you get to a point where it might be a little too offset. Like, I don't know. That's where I see it. I see them as like they play the same sport. It's just like, are you playing the men's or the women's? Which, I mean, you have lacrosse. Lacrosse does play a drastically different game for men's lacrosse than you do women's lacrosse. So maybe you do make changes like that, and maybe it doesn't matter.
Okay, and that's what I was about to say. Does it matter if they change the game? Does it have to be the same, like the men's side and the women's side? It doesn't have to be the same. It still can be an abbreviation of football, or I mean basketball. Look at like football abbreviated from rugby back in the day, right?
Okay,
It's abbreviation.
stop using football as an example because like we can't exemplize football when we're like men's and women's like
That's fair.
every time you say football, I'm gonna make the argument that there's not a like women's NFL.
But all right, like at the end of the day, like I think that it doesn't need to change. Like I mean it doesn't need like the men's approval to change. That's
No, it doesn't.
Right. That's kind of what it felt like. I was like, well, no, it doesn't need like each sport does not have to be exactly the same.
The minute I thought about lacrosse, I was like, all right, lacrosse, like men's lacrosse, you wear pads and like you hit and whatever. Women's lacrosse, there's no pads. Like you can't make physical contact like that. But like those are two vastly different things. The minute I kind of thought about that, I was like, well, you know what? Like those are pretty fucking different. But the one thing I will say to your whole 4-point shot thing, I don't think that fixes the problem at all.
No,
like we're not talking about a 4-point shot. Like change intricate rules that actually like affect, like that's like in the football standard, instead of saying you can't hip tackle anymore, that's like saying, you know what? We're just going to make a touchdown. We're 7 points off the bat. And then you like kick to get an extra 3 or something. Like there's a level of drasticness that's like, okay, hold up here a little bit.
That's fair. That's fair. That's all I really got, man. I mean, the Connecticut Sun, they're 9-0. I mean, that's it. I just wanted to mention the undefeated team in the WNBA. But
Which
that's it.
who do they play tonight?
Who?
The Fever. You said the Fever play tonight?
I was wrong. They play tomorrow night, and they play the Mystics, the 0-9.
Oh, right. We did say that. Well, after that, on Monday, June 10th, the Fever will play the Connecticut Sun. So,
oh God,
yeah, that'll be fun.
Okay, well, maybe they sit Caitlin out. They win this game, and then Caitlin comes back strong as ever and beats the Sun. Maybe. Anyways,
maybe. I would not be opposed to. This is going to sound like an Iowa fan that hates Angel Reese kind of thing, but like I would not be opposed to sitting her the next 3 games and then bringing her back for the game against the Sky.
And then she just goes off. She did have a 30-point game. Caitlin did have a 30-point game. So I'm just saying, like and did I even mention her statistic? I put a big old picture in here.
She was the fastest rookie in the WNBA history to record 100-plus points, 50-plus rebounds, and 50-plus assists.
And 50-plus turnovers. But, no, I'm kidding.
Is she at 50? Yeah, she is.
Yeah, she has to have 50. So
well, she has 10, and then I know she has a couple 7s and an 8. So, like, yeah. I'm pretty sure she might be around 50.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's the first player to get all that. Pretty impressive, not going to lie. Other than that, that's all I got.
Yeah, that's all I got. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I know it's a little different than our usual talk. We're normally very football oriented. Granted, we did kind of just throw a lot of football in there in our basketball talk, but that's okay. We got more videos coming out. We've got different stuff going on. Please, Avery, go ahead and sign us out. Yeah, I got nothing.
Go like, subscribe, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I think if we still have a Facebook, YouTube. We never had a Facebook. Go like and subscribe and fever down.